Barney Google and Snuffy Smith. Barney Google and Snuffy Smith, originally Take Barney Google, for instance, is an American comic strip created by cartoonist Billy DeBeck. Since its debut on June 17, 1919, the strip has gained a large international readership, appearing in 900 newspapers in 21 countries. The initial appeal of the strip led to its adaptation to film, animation, popular song, and television. It added several terms and phrases to the English language and inspired the 1923 hit tune Barney Google with the Goo-Goo-Googly Eyes with lyrics by Billy Rose, as well as the 1923 record Come On, Spark Plug. Barney Google himself, once the star of the strip, and a very popular character in his own right, has been almost entirely phased out of the feature. An increasingly peripheral player in his own strip beginning in the late 1930s, Barney was officially written out in 1954, although he occasionally returned for cameo appearances, often years apart. During a period between 1997 and 2012, Barney Google was not seen in the strip at all. Barney was reintroduced to the strip in 2012 and slowly returned to being an occasionally seen supporting character. Snuffy Smith, who was initially introduced as a supporting player in 1934, has now been the comic strip's central character for over 60 years. Nevertheless, the feature is still titled Barney Google and Snuffy Smith. As of June 17, 2019, Barney Google has run for an entire century, making it the third longest-running and uninterrupted comics series of all time, after Rudolph Dirk's The Katzenjammer Kids and Frank O. King's Gasoline Alley. After Gasoline Alley, it is the second longest-running newspaper comic still in syndication and producing new episodes as of 2021. Characters and story. Barney Google. Like Mutt and Jeff, Barney Google started out on the sports page. First appearing as a daily strip in the sports sections of the Chicago Herald and Examiner in 1919, it was originally titled Take Barney Google, for instance. The title character, a little fellow although he shrank in stature even more after the first year with big banjo eyes, was an avid sportsman and ne'er-do-well involved in poker, horse racing, and prize fights. The goggle-eyed, moustached, gloved and top-hatted, bulbous-nosed, cigar-chomping shrimp, according to comics historian Bill Blackbeard, was relentlessly henpecked by a wife 3 times his size, as the song lyric goes. The formidable Mrs. Lizzie Google, or the Sweet Woman, sued Barney for divorce and thereafter virtually disappeared from the strip. By October 1919, the strip was distributed by King Features Syndicate and was published in newspapers across the country. Spark Plug. Beginning on July 17, 1922, the strip took a momentous turn in popularity with the seemingly innocuous introduction of an endearing race horse named Spark Plug. Barney's beloved brown-eyed baby was a bow-legged nag that seldom raced, and was typically seen almost totally covered by his trademark patched blanket with his name scrawled on the side. Peanuts creator Charles M. Schulz was known to his friends as Sparky, a lifelong nickname given to him by his uncle as a diminutive of Barney Google's Spark Plug. Comics historian Don Markstein noted, Sparky's first race became one of comics' first national media events, eagerly anticipated by millions of newspaper readers. So great was the public's enthusiasm that DeBeck, who had been planning to retire the Plug after that one storyline, made him a permanent part of the cast. Spark Plug was such a star during the 1920s that children who enjoyed the comics were liable to get Sparky for a nickname. For example, Charles M. Sparky Schulz, who grew up to create Peanuts. In deference to his enormous popularity during this period, the strip was retitled Barney Google and Spark Plug. DeBeck's strip hit its peak of popularity with Sparkplug about the same time. The song Barney Google Foxtrot by Billy Rose and Con Conrad was sweeping the country. It became one of the best-known, most iconic novelty records of the 1920s, and has been recorded by such famous artists as Eddie Cantor and the Happiness Boys, the Andrews Sisters, and Spike Jones. Other popular characters and concepts introduced in the strip about this time include Sunshine, Barney's black jockey, a troublesome ostrich named Ruddy, Sully, a monocled champion wrestler, and the mysterious hooded fraternity the Order of the Brotherhood of Billy Goats, a parody of mystic secret societies. There was also a sisterhood of nanny goats for the ladies. Their password was OKMNX, which, deciphered, stood for a standard breakfast order: OK, ham and eggs. Barney was elected Exalted Angora in 1928. Transition to Barney Google and Snuffy Smith. In 1934, an even greater change took place when Barney and his horse visited the North Carolina mountains and met a volatile, equally diminutive moonshiner named Snuffy Smith. Hillbilly humor was extremely popular at the time, as Al Cap was proving with Lil Abner. The strip increasingly focused on the southern Appalachian hamlet of Hoot and Holler, with Snuffy as the main character. The mountaineer locals are extremely suspicious of any outsiders, referred to as flatlanders or even worse, revenuers, federal revenue agents. Snuffy Smith was so popular that his name was added to the strip's title in the late 1930s, while the top-billed Barney Google became an increasingly peripheral character in what once was his own comic. Eventually, Barney Google left Hoot and Holler in 1954 to return to the city, and was essentially written out of the strip except as a very occasional visitor. Barney has appeared extremely rarely in the feature from the mid-1950s on, but returned to Hoot and Holler for a visit in a series of strips beginning on February 19, 2012. Prior to 2012, Barney had not appeared in the strip since January 5, 1997, a span of over 15 years. Barney Google, usually with Sparkplug in tow, made occasional return trips to Hoot and Holler from 2012 to 2020, and moved back permanently to Hoot and Holler in a series of strips run in May 2021. Snuffy Smith and the townsfolk of Hoot and Holler. Snuffy Smith, whose last name is pronounced Smith by virtually all the characters in Hoot and Holler, is an ornery little cuss, sawed-off and shiftless. He lives in a shack, mangles the English language, and has a propensity to shoot at those who displease him. He makes corn liquor moonshine in a homemade still and is in constant trouble with the sheriff. He wears a broad-brimmed felt hat almost as tall as he is, has a scraggly mustache, and a pair of tattered, poorly patched overalls. He constantly cheats at poker and checkers. He also has some proclivity toward stealing chickens, which led to a brief but effective use of his character in a marketing campaign by the Tyson Foods Corporation in the early 1980s. In 1937, he held the post of Royal Doodle Bug in the Varmints Lodge. During this period, the strip heavily employed the catchphrase, "What did the Doodle Bug say?" an apparent homage to What Did the Woggle Bug Say? In L. Frank Baum and Walt McDougall's Queer Visitors from the Marvelous Land of Oz strip of 1904-1905. Almost all of the characters in the strip except the infrequently seen Barney Google and the occasional visiting Flatlander are exaggerated hillbillies in the classic burlesque tradition, sharp-tongued gossipy women such as Snuffy's wife Loisy, his baby Tater, his nephew Jughead, his neighbors Elviny, and Lukey Luke's Ebenezer Hinks, the sanctimonious but nonetheless ungrammatical parson, Silas, the owner of the general store, the ostentatiously badged Sheriff Tate, and others. Vehicles are rundown jalopies of a seeming 1920s vintage, even in the 1970s and beyond. The characters are drawn so that they appear to be talking out of the sides of their mouths. Topper strips. Bughouse Fables. On December 24, 1920, DeBeck began a gag panel called Bughouse Fables, featuring his observations of ordinary people doing foolish things, which he signed Barney Google. This daily panel ran until November 13, 1937. DeBeck added Bughouse Fables as an accompanying topper strip to run with Barney Google on Sundays from January 17 to May 9, 1926. Bunky. On May 16, 1926, DeBeck began another topper strip, originally called Parlor, Bedroom, and Sink, but better known as Bunky. Parlor, Bedroom, and Sink, which evolved into Parlor, Bedroom, and Sink starring Bunky, and eventually simply Bunky, is an over-the-top parody of stage melodramas and movie and radio serials that were popular at the time. The title character Bunky, short for Bunker Hill, Jr., was a hapless waif whose penniless parents, Bunker Hill Sr. and Bibsy, had given birth to the strangely erudite newborn with the enormous nose on November 13, 1927. The irresponsible Bunker Sr. eventually disappeared from the strip. From then on, pint-sized Bunky, still dressed in the baby bonnet and gown in which he was first seen, was the star, protector, and benefactor of the family. His vocabulary rivaled that of any educated adult. Arch-nemesis Fagin, introduced in 1928, was as vile and despicable a villain as any Charles Dickens antagonist. He would steal pennies from a blind man's cup and kick dogs that weren't even in his way. Robbing widows and orphans was routine for him, according to comics historian Don Markstein, who said the strip popularized the phrase, "Yaus is a viper." Fantasy author and Conan the Barbarian creator Robert E. Howard, a big fan of Bunky, was fond of quoting from the strip, noted by his friend Tevis Clyde Smith. After DeBeck's death in 1942, Bunky continued for a time under Joe Musial, the Katzenjammer Kids, and Fred Lasswell. The series ended on July 18, 1948. Other toppers. Other toppers featured above Barney Google included Who's Who 1932, Yaus is a Viper May 15, 1932, Aug 19, 1934, I Learnt This Trick from the Prince, Aug 12 Sept 2, 1934, Knee-High Noodles Sept 9, 1934, June 23, 1935, Hillbilly Balloony Sept 15, Dec 8, 1935, What Did the Doodle Bug Say? April 11/25, 1937, and write a caption for this cartoon Sept 11 Oct 9, 1938. Fred Lasswell. When Barney Google began to lose popularity during the Great Depression, DeBeck introduced a simpler style through artist Fred Lasswell after seeing a poster by Lasswell, then in high school, at a golf tournament at Palma CIA Country Club in Tampa, Florida. Lasswell, who drew cartoons and posters at the McCarthy Ad Agency and for the Tampa Daily Times, was brought in to create the Snuffy characters, which by 1934 surpassed Barney Google in popularity. Lasswell took over the strip, now named Barney Google and Snuffy Smith after DeBeck died in 1942. In 1944 and 1945, Lasswell began featuring Snuffy in guest appearances in Lasswell's own Sergeant Hashmark comic strip that appeared in the U.S. Marines Leatherneck magazine. After the war, Lasswell gained steady increases in distribution, with the strip eventually appearing in more than 1,000 newspapers throughout the world. In 1962, Lasswell received the Silver Lady Award, and 2 years later won the Euban Award and the Best Humor Strip Award from the National Cartoonists Society. In both 1984 and 1994, he won the Elsie Segar Award, being the only cartoonist who received this award more than once. Lasswell died in 2001, 16 weeks ahead on the strip, leaving a digital archive containing 35,000 original comic panels and sketches, including over 20,000 daily and 4,000 Sunday strips, and about 24,000 original gags. John R. Rose. In mid-1998, editorial cartoonist John R. Rose began as Lasswell's inking assistant, and he became the strip's cartoonist after Lasswell's death. In addition to being the artist on the strip, Rose is the editorial cartoonist for Ogden Newspapers of Virginia and creates Kids Home Newspaper, a weekly syndicated puzzle feature for Creators Syndicate. His books including the bodacious Best of Snuffy Smith 2013, Balls of Fire, More Snuffy Smith Comics 2016, and Snuffy Smith in his Sunday Best 2018. Rose restored Barney Google as a semi-regular character in 2015. Rose was presented the Lum and Abner Memorial Award by the National Lum and Abner Society for his contributions to rural humor. In September 2017, Rose was honored with an award at Walt Disney's hometown Toonfest in Marceline, Missouri, for his contributions to cartooning. John Rose was awarded first place from the Tennessee Press Association in 2018 for Best Use of Humor in an ad for a series wildfire prevention public service newspaper ads featuring Snuffy Smith. He created these snuff out wildfires before they start ads for the Knoxville News Sentinel and the Tennessee Press Association after devastating wildfires hit eastern Tennessee. In June 2019, Rose featured Barney Google in a special 100th birthday series that lasted several weeks. Barney got lost in the funny papers trying to find Hoot and Holler and ended up visiting Dagwood, Popeye, Beetle Bailey, and more on his way to a birthday party that featured many characters from Barney Google and Snuffy Smith, who had not been seen in decades, and tribute panels to cartoonists Billy DeBeck and Fred Lasswell. Origin of Google. Following the Goo-Goo song 1900, the word Google was introduced in 1913 in Vincent Cartwright Vickers' The Google Book, a children's book about the Google and other fanciful creatures who live in Googleland. The Google has a beautiful garden, which is guarded night and day. All through the day he sleeps in a pool of water in the center of the garden, but when the night comes, he slowly crawls out of the pool and silently prowls around for food. Aware of the word's appeal, DeBeck launched his comic strip 6 years later, and the Goo-Goo-Googly lyrics in the 1923 song Barney Google focused attention on the novelty of the word. And mathematician and Columbia University professor Edward Kastner was challenged in the late 1930s to devise a name for a very large number, 10,100. He asked his 9-year-old nephew, Milton Sirota, to suggest a word. Sirota suggested the word Google, and in 1940, Kastner introduced the words Google and Googleplex in his book, Mathematics and the Imagination. Milton Sirota died in 1980, but author Bunny Crumpacker has speculated that the boy might have been thinking of Google the comic character. This is the term that Larry Page and Sergey Brin had in mind when they named their company in 1998, but their fellow graduate student Sean Anderson misspelled Google as Google. In 2002, when Page set up a scanning device at Google to test how fast books could be scanned, the first book he scanned was Vickers' The Google Book. Legacy. DeBeck, who had a gift for coining colorful terms, is credited with introducing several jazz-age slang words and phrases into the English language, including sweet mama, horse feathers, heebie-jeebies, hotsy-totsy, and who has seen the doodle bug. Snuffy's catchphrases Great Balls of Fire and Times a Wastin remain popular to this day. In DeBeck's memory, The National Cartoonists Society in 1946 introduced the Billy DeBeck Award. 8 years later, the name was changed to the Euban Award after Rube Goldberg. In 1963, Lasswell won both the NCS Humor Comic Strip Award and Euban Award. That same year, he won the Society's plaque for Best Humor Strip. In 1984, the Society gave him its Elsie Segar Award named after the creator of Popeye for outstanding contributions to his profession. Snuffy Smith currently appears in 21 countries and 11 languages. In 1995, the strip was honored by the U.S. Postal Service. It was one of 20 included in the Comic Strip Classics series of commemorative USPS postage stamps. Licensing. Snuffy Smith makes a brief appearance in Clifford D. Simak's novel Out of Their Minds. Toys and merchandise. Sparkplug captured the nation's hearts and imagination during the 1920s and became a merchandising bonanza for King Features and Billy DeBeck. Sparkplug, I am happy to say, has caught on, wrote DeBeck in 1924. All over the United States you find stuffed spark plugs and spark plug games and spark plug drums and spark plug balloons and spark plug tin pails. And there is a spark plug play on the road. The only thing that is lacking is a spark plug grand opera. Source: Barney Google and Snuffy Smith, 75 Years of an American Legend, page 35. During the mid-1950s, the Louis Marks Toy Company sold 4 vinyl character figures, 2.5 to 3 inches tall, representing Snuffy Smith, Louise, Jughead, and Sut Tattersall. Illustrated at http://www.markswildwest.com/cartoons% 20% Twentin and Disney. HTML. In 1960, King Features made plans to have Snuffy Smith serving hot dogs and chili at Snuffy's shanties sick across the country, a plan of a Columbus, Georgia, franchisor who had hoped to have 700 shanties operating by 1970. In July 2004, Dark Horse Comics issued a limited edition figure of Barney Google in a colorful collector tin as statue number 47 in their line of classic comic character figures. Sheet music. Barney Google Foxtrot by Billy Rose and Con Conrad, 1923. Jerome H. Remick and Company. Come On, Spark Plug by Billy Rose and Con Conrad, 1923. Watterson, Berlin and Snyder Company. Bughouse Fables by Clarence Gaskill, 1923. M. Whitmark and Sons. So I Took the $50,000 by Jack Meskill and Al Gumbel, 1923. Jerome H. Remick and Company. OKM and X We're 20 Million Strong, or The Brotherhood of Billy Goats by Phil Baker, J. Russell Robinson and Sid Silvers, 1928. Jerome H. Remick and Company. Times a West in the original Yardbird song by Olson and Johnson, J. Levison and Ray Evans, 1941. Broadcast Music, Inc. Comic books. Barney Google and Snuffy Smith each had a spotty history in comic books, starting with the first issue of David McKay's Ace Comics, 1937. They appeared in their own comics as well: 3 issues from Dell Comics in the 1940s, 4 from Toby Press in the 1950s. In December 2015, Snuffy Smith returned to comic books. John Rose wrote and illustrated the comic book story Hopalong Jughead for Charlton Spotlight #9. Book collections and reprints. All titles by Billy DeBeck unless otherwise noted. Barney Google and His Faithful Nag Sparkplug, 1923. Couples and Leon Company. Barney Google and Sparkplug #2, 1924. Couples and Leon Company. Barney Google and Sparkplug #3, 1925. Couples and Leon Company. Barney Google and Sparkplug #4, 1926. Couples and Leon Company. Barney Google, 1935, Big Little Book, 1083 Saulfield. Barney Google, 1919, 1920, 1977, Hyperion Press, ISBN 0-88355-631-6. The Smithsonian Collection of Newspaper Comics, 1977, Smithsonian Institution Press / Harry Abrams, Bill Blackbeard, ed. Barney Google and Snuffy Smith, 75 Years of an American Legend, 1994, Kitchen Sink Press, Brian Walker, ed. ISBN 0-87816-283-6. Barney Google, Gambling, Horse Races, and High-Toned Women. 2010 Yo! Books imprint of IDW, ISBN 160000-10676. The Bodacious Best of Snuffy Smith, 2013, Lulu. Com. John Rose, ISBN 978-1328,330. Balls of Fire. More Snuffy Smith Comics, 2016, Lulu. Com. John Rose, ISBN 978-1329-51683. Snuffy Smith in his Sunday Best, 2018, Lulu. Com. John Rose, ISBN 9781387733948. Barney Google, 2019, IDW Publishing Library of American Comics. Foreword by John Rose. Introduction by Brian Walker. ISBN 978-168,405-578-4. Reprints Daily Strips, originally published May 31, 1926, December 7, 1926, and October 7, 1927, April 6, 1928. Film and television. Live action, 1920s. Beginning in 1928, Barney Hellum portrayed Barney Google in a series of silent live-action short films for FBO Pictures, also featuring Philip Davis as Sunshine. Horse Feathers, 1928. Ockmunks, 1928, or Barney Google's Welcome Home. T-Bone Handicap, 1928. Money Box, 1928. The Beefsteaks, 1928. Runnin' Through the Rye, 1929. Sunshine's Dark Moment, 1929. Nay, Sparkplug, 1929. A Horse on Barney, 1929. Just a Stall, 1929. The Pace That Thrills, 1929. Slide, Sparky, Slide, 1929. Live Action, 1940s. Two low-budget, live-action B-movie features based on the strip were produced at Monogram Pictures in 1942. Private Snuffy Smith or Snuffy Smith. Diminutive actor Bud Duncan portrayed Snuffy in both films, with Cliff Nazaro appearing as Barney in Hillbilly Blitzkrieg. Both films also feature former Keystone Cop Edgar Kennedy and future Mouseketeer Jimmy Dodd in supporting roles. Animation, 1930s. An animated cartoon Barney Google series in the mid-1930s was produced by the Charles Mintz Screen Gems studio. Mintz made only 4 Barney Google cartoons, all released theatrically through Columbia Pictures. Tetched in the Head, 1935. Patch My Britches, 1935. Sparkplug, 1936. Major Google, 1936. Animation, 1940s. Spree for All, 1946, is an animated noveltoon produced by Famous Studios, distributed through Paramount Pictures. It was produced in color, but currently only exists in a French black and white print. Animation, 1960s. In 1962, King Features Syndicate released 56-minute Snuffy Smith cartoons for television, produced by Paramount Cartoon Studios in New York. All 50 episodes are available on the Advantage Collection Cartoon Mega Pack DVD set. The opening credits included a catchy theme song that was specifically composed for the cartoon. Oh, great balls o' fire, I'm bodacious. Oh, great balls o' fire, I'm a fright. Oh, great balls o' fire, goodness gracious. I'm choppin' with all o' my might, yea. Other King Features properties, such as Beetle Bailey and Crazy Cat, also appeared as rotating segments under the collective title King Features Trilogy. The series was widely shown in TV syndication, although Snuffy's song, The Hat, The Method and Maw, and Take Me to Your General were released theatrically, with prolific voice actor Paul Frees providing the voices of both Snuffy and Barney. G. Pearson also doubled as Louise and Jughead. A number of episodes feature animation by famed animator Jim Tyre. All shorts directed by Seymour Natal except where indicated. 1962. Snuffy's Song Part 1 of a 30-minute special. The Hat Part 3 of a 30-minute special. The Method and Maw Part 2 of a 30-minute special. Take Me to Your General 1963. Snuffy's Turf Luck first short produced, made in 1961, directed by Jack Kinney. Pie in the Sky. The Berkeley Squares. The Shipwreckers. The Master first short with Snuffy's dog, Bullet. Barney Deals the Cars. Snuffy Runs the Gamut. The Tourist Trap. Rip Van Snuffy first short with Jughead. Snuffy Goes to College. Snuffy's Brush with Fame. Give a Jail a Break. Glove Thy Neighbor. Snuffy's Fair Lady 1964. Just Plain Kinfolk. Off Their Rockers. Snuffy Hits the Road. My Kingdom for a Horse. The Country Club Smiths. Jughead's Jumping Frog. Turkey Shoot. The Work Pill. Jughead for President. Louise Makes a Match. Fishin' Fools. Little Red Jughead. Jughead the Magician. A Hoskin Dream. It's Better to Give. Springtime and Spark Plug. There's No Feud Like an Old Feud. A Hauntin' for a House. Feudin' and a Fussin'. Barney's Blarney. You Do That Judo. Farm of the Future. Gettin' Snuffy's Goat. Barney's Winter Carnival. Keeping Up with the Joneses. The Big Bear Hunt first short with Busy Buzz, and the last to have Jughead. Ain't It the Tooth? Busy Nappers. The Buzz in Snuffy's Bonnet. Settin' and a frettin' Busy Buzz introduces herself to the audience, implying that this was the first produced short she appeared in. Beauty and the Beat last short with Barney Google. Smoke Screams has a cameo from Smokey the Bear.